Hi, I'm Keegan, and this is A Bunch of Gamers. This is our first recap of our current Werewolf the Apocalypse game. While most of the recaps will be covering games that have already been recorded so that you get a quick refresher, or if you don't want to sit through several of the older episodes to get to the newest one, this one is actually about all the sessions we had before we started recording our game. So, this should give some backstory on the pack and why they started wandering across the globe. Our story begins in Colorado Springs. Our first story involves a young homeless man named Kyle Ayers. Leading a local group of homeless people, Kyle is told by the police that the homeless camp needs to go, pack up and leave, that they are getting a lot of negative PR, and that they will no longer be tolerated. Using some of his natural charisma and connections, Kyle is able to give them a few days so that the camp can pack up, move, while keeping most of their items together. And in exchange for this leniency, Kyle has to take personal responsibility for a member of the camp called Steven Wilson, an albino who's gotten into several violent confrontations with the police. After playing Peacekeeper, Kyle is able to convince the police to go easy on the camp and allow them to go to Pueblo for a few days. Hitchhiking with a few of his friends and Steven, who all, except for Steven, have become progressively more wary of him, Kyle is able to get into the Steel City. Kyle is also able to scourge enough money to get some food and went downtown when he comes across several thugs beating on one of his homeless friends. Trying to diffuse the situation, Kyle is hit in the face and blacks out. Waking up the next morning, Kyle finds himself naked and covered in blood in a park near Pueblo West. Hearing someone coming, Kyle desperately runs to a nearby river to clean himself off, when several local bone gnars come to him, telling him that they will ship him back to Colorado Springs so he can be taught, and so that the violence in him may be quelled, at least redirected in the right ways. Around the same time, there are two girls, Bic Young and Cora Sokja. The two girls are preparing to head to high school. The two have always been close, but their fellow students have been getting progressively more distant and wary of the two, especially of Cora, driving the two closer together than ever. On the way to school, Bic is confronted by her regular bully. Shouting insults at her, Cora steps in and threatens him. A junior powerlifter, Cora has cultivated a reputation of being tough as nails and strong. The bully backs off, and the girls have one final sleepover together, talking about things and how they've been getting progressively more strange, and how Bic admits that she's been hearing things. Cora admits the same, though both can't really understand what is being said. Cora is able to convince her parents that she can stay the night and that they have some schoolwork to do, and that Cora has a lifting meet the next day after school. Cora laments how she wished she was as close to her family as Bic was to her, while Bic wishes that her parents would butt out of her business much like Cora's do. After school, the next day, Bic is walking home when her bully once again appears. He smells wrong, foul, like poison. He shifts and becomes an odd, monstrous creature with insectoid and reptilian features. Bic feels her body changing and shifting, like growing pains, only 1,000 times worse, before blacking out, though redding out might have been more apt. Waking up naked and covered in green ichor, she is found by a woman named Ragna, who tells her that she is Guru. She brings B to her house and gives her some clean clothes and a shower. B attempts to use Ragna's computer to contact her parents and Cora, but the awakened spirits inside the tech inform Ragna, who restrains and physically attacks B to drive home the point that she cannot contact the outside world anymore, especially before she's brought to Sept grounds. A few days after B's disappearance, Cora grows ever more frustrated by her parents' indifference to the plight of her friend and Cora's emotional distress. In a fit of frustration, Cora decides to go off on a walk to blow off some steam. Staying out well past curfew for children of her age, She is stopped by a police officer. Frustrated with the world, Cora lashes out and yells at the officer telling her to calm down and to get in the car. Cora also blacks out and wakes up on a mountain trail near Pikes Peak, covered in blood and naked when she is found by a man. He informs her that his name is Regender Final Days. He informs Cora that he has used several of his kinfolk and other contacts to make it appear a domestic terrorism bombing had gone off and that Cora and B had died in it. A few other casualties happened to sell the deception, though Regender seems to be hurt by its necessity. The three are brought into the Sept of the Sacred Stone, located near Garden of the Gods, Colorado Springs. They are placed in the care of someone named Gregory Wildspeaker. Strangely, Wildspeaker demands that they call him by his title, though none of them understand why. He is only a few years older than them and seems to have something on his mind. Wildspeaker teaches the three about the Worm, Weaver, and Wild, the three cosmic forces that shape their world, and of the cosmic balance that existed between the three during the dawn times. He tells them of the Weaver's madness and her growing pasturation, the capture of the worm and its madness. Bick begins to question these myths, claiming that Gaia isn't real and that there is no such proof for this. Wildspeaker lashes out and attacks Bick. She is silenced, but only for a while. That she would call this mythology angers him beyond belief, while the other two, Kyle and Cora, sit back and watch, too shaken. Cora stands up for Bick later on, claiming that it is enough. Wildspeaker lets up only a little bit, giving Cora a glare as well. Once his lessons are done, Wildspeaker gives these young pups, as he calls them, a day to hang out with each other, digest his lessons, and get to know each other. That there aren't many young Garu these nights, and that it is best if they cultivate something between them. Bick tries to convince the other two to flee the Sept and get away from the Garu. Cora's unconvinced, given how powerful they clearly are, and Kyle, in fact, lashes out. He confides to B and Cora about the murder of his friend in Pueblo because he couldn't control the rage within him, and that B would get innocent people killed. Dejected, but defiant, Bick does decide to stick with the two for the next lesson. For that evening, Wildspeaker would hand them over to Howling King, a Silver Fang who would teach them to control their shapeshifting and the ways of battle, as well as their own abilities to regenerate, commanding them to take Glabro form in the most violent ways possible. They finally take it before taking a lead pipe to each of their legs and breaking their kneecaps, allowing them to regenerate, telling them to feel it, to understand the regeneration, to know what is going on. Bick lashes out again, questioning the methods, questioning how he has the authority. He demands that she try and strike him. When she refuses, Cora attempts to. Cora is thrown down and beaten back. Howling King tells Bick that her friend was hurt because of her cowardice, and that she must learn to stand up for others, for that is what it means to be Garu, to stand against the tide of the worm. Howling King then demands that the three take the shape of a wolf and that they choose their alpha for the hunt. They settle on Cora, and the three, after much practice, take Lupus form. Howling King tells them that if they want to eat, they will have to catch it, and they will have to hunt in the wilderness of the cairn. The makeshift pack of pups does surprisingly well. They capture and eat faster than Howling King would expect, and as a reward, he gifts them a talent, though he does not initially tell them what it means, but he does say that it honors them. Confused and allowed to sleep, the pups rest and are once again in the care of Wildspeaker. The Den Father introduces them to the Elder of the Sept, one that Cora has actually met after her first change, Regender Final Days, who explains that representatives of the tribes of the Garu Nation will arrive at the Sept in a few weeks to take the measure of the pups and answer questions about their tribes. and to help train them over the coming months, competing with each other to get new blood into their tribe. Wildspeaker then introduces them to a member of his pack, Luis Earthwalker, who would teach the young Garu about the Umbra in the spirit world, and the spirits themselves. The pups are brought through the heart of the cairn and are shown the wonders of the Umbra as the great spirit of their sect, Golden Eagle, arrives. Earthwalker and Wildspeaker bring them throughout the wilderness of the Umbra, introducing them to spirits, speaking of the spiritual hierarchy, and how the Umbra breathes life into the physical world when the two decide to bring them into the city's Umbra, where they discover the ever-twisting webs of the pattern spiders and the stasis of the world. He shows them pockets of wild energies and wilderness in the form of the many parks that litter Colorado Springs, claiming that they are lucky that Colorado Springs is not nearly as weaverish as many of the other scabs that sit across Gaia. It is here that the pups are able to prove themselves, killing a Bane spirit of addiction in a park near downtown Colorado Springs. Impressed, Wormspeaker commends them. During this time, finally, the representatives of the tribes arrive, including the Red Talons, on the off chance that one of the pups could join their tribe, not knowing if any were lupus-born. The pups begin to ask each of the tribes about their philosophical outlook. When they approach the Red Talons, the pack known as Gaia's Inferno refuses to acknowledge them and demands to know why no useful Garu were born this year. It is here that Cora learns about the Get of Fenris and how they called to her. She explains both to the Get of Fenris representative and to Final Days of a dream she's been having, a reoccurring one, how a great wolf and unicorn are battling before her, as if to take control and take her away. Final Days tells her that she has the capacity to be either a child of Gaia or Get of Fenris, and that her heart is torn between which of the two tribes she wishes to join. Bee begins to learn about the Silent Striders, Stargazers, and Glasswalkers. After all of her questioning and failed escape attempts, Bee doesn't want to be ostracized more than she already has been. Given everything, she decides not to seek the Glasswalkers, seeing the reliance on the Weaver, and that marks them as other among the Garu. She's tired of being othered. She then learns about the Stargazers, and that the tribe may in fact be tied to her past and ancestors, though the tribal tenets don't resonate with her. Finally, Bee settles on the Silent Striders, drawn to the concept of working with ghosts, feeling like the ever-wandering and not feeling like she belongs, and the desire to be relied upon by her pack as she discovers secrets and information and brings it to them, appeal to her. Kyle is drawn to the Bone Gnars and the Children of Gaia, though Kyle understandably empathizes with the plights of the poor and the evils of poverty. He is drawn more so by the message of unity among the Children of Gaia. He has always felt directionless, that he was simply screaming into the void, and that the only thing that held that feeling back, even for a moment, was helping his fellow man and the homeless population and keeping the group together. Kyle sees the Children of Gaia's goal of unity among Garu as a higher calling, and that the tribe speaks to his soul. Several months pass as the pups train with their auspice and members of their preferred tribe, preparing for the rite of passage. Each one approaches their tribal representative and is given a small task within the greater rite to prove themselves. The three are told that worm-tainted drugs have been found on the streets of Colorado Springs, that these drugs seem to be inciting violence in those who use them, and many seem to be becoming Fomori. The three young Garu set out And Kyle, using some of his old connections in the homeless community, finds a mild drug peddler when he discovers where a new gang has moved in, selling heroin. Going to those areas, the three come across an addict who seems to be overdosing. They know something else is going on, and Cora is the only one of the three who is able to pass into the Umbra, finding a spirit trying to possess the addict. Cora is able to single-handedly stop the Bane spirit and prevent the birth of a Fomori. They are able to question the addict and find out where he's getting his drugs. It seems the new player in town was called the Irishman, and his two top peddlers, Shades and Two Chains, were just a few blocks away. Hunting down the peddlers, the young Garu learned that these men were Fomori. They killed them and discovered the Irishman's location and his supplies. It is here that they find that the Irishman has created Fomori who lactate heroin, that every part of their body seemed alive and horrifying. As the Fomori screamed for death, the pack granted that wish and claimed vengeance for them out of the hide of the Irishman. The pack then burnt down the storage facility that held the tainted drug supply and returned home. And with a resounding howl, they were accepted as Cleoth in the Garu nation. Each of them approached Garu who lived in their sept and who had left an impact on them, so that they may find their deed name. It is here that Kyle received the name Guards the Low from Regender, who believed that Kyle found his purpose, and that was what it was. Cora also approached Final Days, and he called her Two Hearts, for though she joined the Get of Fenris, there was always still a peacefulness about her. And finally, Bee approached Howling King, her harshest teacher, but she wished to be named by the harshest of them, to take insults and wear them as armor. Howling King gave her the name Pillar of Questions, and told her that if she could find the right questions, she could be strong for the Garu nation. The group then decides to come together as a pack, and agree to perform the Rite of Totem together. They are sent out with Earthwalker, who would facilitate the rite. After following several paths in the Umbra and coming across various spirits that might be interested in them, the pack settles on trying to impress the great spirit Bear. Bear informs them that there is a spirit being attacked by Banes up in the woods near Woodland Park. They must kill the Banes and heal the spirit based on its nature. Moving through the Umbra, the pack find and attack the Banes, but are in turn ambushed by a black spiral dancer named Onyx Claws of the Worm, who seems to have some sort of history with Earthwalker. After a fierce battle, Onyx Claws flees from the fight, and the pack is successful in their quest, gaining Bear as a patron, and taking the pack name Fomori's Bane. A moot is called soon after to celebrate the new Garu, and news of the surrounding area is exchanged amongst the Garu. The newly formed pack decides to investigate a local hospital that seems to be producing violence in former patients, and even a few Fomori. It's a rare and subtle thing, and it had taken the Garu months to put the pieces together. Fomori's Bane agreed to investigate further and try and stop it. Investigating the hospital right away, rather than the victims or the previous victims, they learned that a majority of the drugs here were produced by a company named Magadon. Looking through the Umbra, the pack found that about 1 in 1,000 pills were infected with Banes and worm taint. While the rest of the pack were investigating the pills, Pillar of Questions was able to hack into the hospital's computer system with the help of a patterned spider, and discovered a hidden basement level. The pack moved through the Umbra to avoid security cameras and came across a large fat pain spirit that was feeding on the pain and misery of this area, as well as 3 Banes that were possessing people on the other side. The pack attempted to stop them, but they were too late, and the 3 spirits passed into the physical world, into their new physical bodies. Shifting to the physical world, the pack came across Bee's mom, who violently transformed into a Fomori, losing control of her body and lashing out in violent attacks, all while screaming for it to stop. Guards below saw the threat and ended it right then and there in front of Bee's eyes. The deed was done and Pillar of Questions was devastated. She lashed out against Final Days when they returned to the Sept, proclaiming that she wished she'd never been born Garou. Convinced that there was more going on, the pack decided to continue to invest Magadon. They discovered that Magadon had opened a rehabilitation center up in Boulder to make amends for the ever-growing opioid crisis across the nation. They were funding the rehabilitation center, though they didn't have any direct control, or so they claimed. While investigating, Final Days informed the pack that tainted heroin was once again on the rise in the city. It seemed to be getting worse, that users are turning unnaturally violent and begin fitting nearly every terrible stereotype of an addict. Following several leads, they find that the dealers have more Fomori, quote-unquote, cows that feed on prescription opioids and produce the tainted heroin. This practice isn't profitable, yet the group was clearly making some sort of profit. The pack suspected a link to Magadon, but were unable to prove a connection. They killed the Fomori and put an end to the drug trafficking. Soon the pack began to have nightmares, horrible nightmares, of Final Days being killed by a powerful Garou with a whip. She treaded upon a rusting city in her conquest, and blood was squeezed from the earth with every step. They warn Final Days, who assures them that he would be careful. During the next moot, the pack learns of more things happening across the state. One that grabs their attention is that Iron Howl, a local bone gnawer, has vanished since his last visit to Pueblo. They agree to go with his packmates, Bloodwind and Silver Scribe of the Mountain Guard, to Pueblo. Asking around the Steel City, the pack learns that many of the resident homeless population have just up and vanished. None of the people that they knew know why, but they all agree it happened at the same time. Meanwhile, Pillar of Questions was hounded by a ghost, asking her to follow it. As their leads dried up, the pack agreed to Pillar of Questions' plan to trust the ghost. They came across a warehouse filled with the corpses of Garou and kin alike. It is here that they see that there was a security camera infused with a Bane that informed Black Spiral dancers and their Fomori slaves when someone had entered the building, and the pack was forced to make a quick getaway. The Mountain Guard came and attempted to defend them. When they reconvened, both were scarred, but alive. Continuing to follow the ghost, the pack discover that it wishes them to go to the chemical depot. Under the military installation, they discover a cave filled with wormish glyphs and a spiral singing an unusual version of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Like a ruby in the sky, come and bring the end of time. The pack attempts to attack this spiral, but are unable to. Their claws and fangs do nothing, and they are forced to flee. Informing the Sept, Reginder sends out the call to send their ally Septs. Each Sept, if they answer the call, sent only one warrior, with the exception of one. The Red Talon Sept, located in the hearts of the mountains, sent Gaia's Inferno to aid them with this task. The pack agreed to go with these warriors and to cleanse Pueblo. The pack act as recon, trying to find everything they can. The pack discover several gangs who have been infected with Fomori members who are now under the control of the Black Spiral dancers. They discover that the Spirals went after kin and many were kidnapped. They learn of a Garou named Zizak and her terrible power, that she is said to be the chosen of the Green Dragon and the most powerful Garou to ever live. It seems that she and her pack were responsible for the fall of Pueblo, killing the Bone Gnawers and kidnapping their kin. They also discover some Koraks. The Koraks were investigating and speak of the spiritual disturbance of the area. It is here that the pack now learned that indeed some of the Farah survived the War of Rage, and that some Farah are not nearly as rare as others. After a fierce battle, the battle for Pueblo is won, and the city is secured. Thankfully, Zizak and her pack had already moved on after the initial strike, not wishing to hold the Steel City. The pack is able to recover, and Korra is informed by one of the visiting warriors that the Get of Fenris tribal moot that year would be held on the winter solstice. Once recovered, Fomori's Bane decides to investigate the rehab center in Boulder and pick up that trail once again. They strike a deal with the Glasswalkers of Denver to strengthen the bond between their septs so that they could stand stronger together, and as a political move to make sure that they could hold it over the Glasswalkers if they did not heed the call like they did last time. Before they leave, Bick finds out that Final Days and some of the other have worked to make her father a kenning kinfolk, which means that he is aware of the Garu's existence. She is able to spend a week with him and feels something again, believing that if she fights for her father, then she can do this. She can be a Garu. Final Days hoped that this would happen, and that it would heal her broken heart and bring her closer to the Garu once again. Once up in Boulder, the pack begins investigating the rehabilitation center. It's hard to get in, and they begin looking things up on computers. Pillar of Questions gets on a hacker site to try and learn anything about it. Of course, the move was mostly unhelpful, as conspiracies were thrown at her left and right of such things as the Illuminati. Pillar of Questions, after a previous investigation into Magadon and learning about the name Pentex, claimed that there was no Illuminati, that their real name was Pentex, and the Form laughed at her. Because she was on a hacker site, B was kicked out of the library and her picture taken to make sure that she could not return, breaking the library's policies. As they continued to investigate, the pack came across a news team for the Red Network. It seemed that the Red Network also got word that something shady was happening at the rehabilitation facility. And lying to the news team, Fomori's Bane convinced them that they were of age and that they could get into the rehabilitation center. B decided to stay behind. When this happens, she is caught between the Umbra and the physical world and draws a ghost to her. The ghost says that it will help her back out of the gauntlet if she helps him. She agrees, all while the rest of the pack are investigating the rehabilitation center. The pack learn that the rehabilitation center is using these addicts to take care of the elderly in homes and things like that, as well as working with basic nursing staff. Unfortunately, that means that these addicts are surrounded by opioids and other addictive substances. The rehabilitation center works them well over 15 hours a day and takes their fee, or their pay, as a fee for their rehabilitation. This has a way of breaking the spirits of the addicts and makes several of them cruel, trying to lash out simply to get kicked out, rather going to jail than living this life. Yet the rehabilitation staff simply look the other way. They gather as much information and interviews with the patients of the rehabilitation center, while B attempts to perform a favor for the ghost. The ghost wants his daughter to break up with her husband, hating the husband and always claiming to have. B agrees until the ghost starts claiming that she should kill him and be done with it. Refusing to do the job at all now, the ghost, in a fit of rage, shatters a car window right next to B while the owner is there and a police officer is there. The police officer questions her, asking her why she is not in school. B gives her full name, her address, and the phone number to her father before being let off with a ticket. The pack reconvene with the Red Network and give the information about the rehab center's horrible practices. The Red Network takes the story and runs with it, showing the horrors of this rehab center, but going even further, demonizing drug addicts, increasing calls to strengthen the war on drugs, and getting several legitimate rehab centers shut down due to the funding being pulled due to the PR nightmare of this original site. The pack knows that they did something good for the addicts there, but they're not sure if they did something good for the rest of the country. That this red network used their earnest attempts at justice to create something more evil. Returning home, the pack has a few weeks of relaxation before a new mood is called. The mood is called, and Iron Howl returns. He claims to have escaped the Black Spiral dancers who attacked Pueblo. He was kept as a prisoner, his body covered in scars and missing a few fingers as well. Brought to the Moot Center, the rest of the Mountain Guard embrace him, crying, just happy to have him back. Cora is saddened. She wants to be that close to her pack, and she doesn't know how. Pillar of Questions spends time with her father, getting close to him, until the moot. Soon after the moot, as news about the local state of Colorado is done, news breaks on the Red Network. It seems that someone has been reporting on Bee's father, claiming that he faked his daughter's death to put her in some sort of environmentalist cult. Her father constantly hounded and fired from his job, as well as police looking into it. The Sept agrees to put her father in a kind of werewolf witness protection to move him with other family, as well as a fake identity. They wouldn't tell Bee where he's going, believing that she would be too tempted to visit him, which could cause problems. Bee tearfully tells her father goodbye. Worse yet, Pentex seems to know that Bee is a Garou, and a first team is sent to attack her. The pack is attacked, but they are able to stop the Pentex first team, killing them, before they are able to report back the location of the Sept. The pack announces at the Sept and at a moot, and it is determined that while they stopped the first team from discovering and reporting on the Sept, they still took action that could have violated a Karen. And so they are banished. Banished till the spring solstice, about 6 months away. After their banishment, Final Days leads the entire Karen and Sept in the sacred rejection as they turn their backs on them and demand they leave. Their whole home, the only one they've known, gone, the pack enter the Umbra. It is here they find Bear, who gives them 3 paths to follow that may mend their relationship if they're strong enough to find comfort in each other. They take the one that smells like nothing, and the pack ends up in the abyss. Lost and confused, they discover a young Lupus, who is also lost. It seems her pack was killed during the Rite of Totem by spirals. Fleeing and afraid, she ended up lost in the Umbra, and all lost things eventually end up here in the abyss. Her name was Shinigami, and she would become important to them, joining their pack later on. The pack continued to move through the abyss, looking for a way out. They climbed deeper and deeper into the abyss, confronted by Banes and other various spirits before they found a crack. This crack led them into the atrocity realm. Confronted by the worst atrocities committed by men and Garou alike, the pack began to lose heart as Bee shouted at her pack, claiming that they shouldn't have come with her, that they ruined everything, that she just wanted to be away. In a fit of rage, Kyle frenzies and enters Thrall the Worm, attacking Bee. Frustrated and flustered, Cora shifts to Krynos and splits the two apart, and demanding that they stick together, screaming, "This is no place for us to be fighting." They recollect themselves and they continue to search, looking for scenes that might help them get out of here. It is here that they discover Iron Howl fell to the worm. He slaughtered dozens of Gaian kinfolk to prove his loyalty after his dance down the spiral. The pack are even more desperate to escape, to inform their Sept of what happened via Spirit or Silent Strider, so that Iron Howl would be stopped. Finally, the pack is spit out of the atrocity realm. Drained of willpower, rage, and gnosis, they are lost and confused. They are in the Pre-Umbra, but beyond that, they had no idea where they were. And that is where episode 1 of our werewolf game began. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. And we will catch you next time. Thank you. Bye.